somebody said, I'm quoting a friend of mine, said, we're not a convenience store, but we're a convenient store,
I like that,
based on our locations. And we work that, very, very hard. And we don't, we don't want to sound arrogant when we say it, but we really don't compete with the chains. We don't really compete with anybody. We've tried to find our own niche for our customers, and it's worked out well for us. And it's not easy, but it's a cool challenge.
Before we get started, I have a small favor to ask from you. Currently, 85% of our viewers are not subscribed. My goal is 50%. So if you've ever liked any of the videos we've posted, if you like this channel, can you do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button? It helps this channel more than you know, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get, and the more exceptional the properties get. Thank you, and enjoy this episode. I'm John Grafft, and I love Chicago real estate. Between showings, I stop in my favorite places, talk with local business owners, and bring their story to you. This is my Chicago.
We have a cohort of babysitters that all live in this building.
Wow.
I went up and down the floors and put a slip of paper under that basically said, we just had a son. We have no idea what we're doing. If you have any interest in helping here and there, let us know. I passed out 200 pieces of paper. 10 girls responded. And then he swims every night. He's been swimming since he was 2 weeks. And he's kind of, people cheer him from the balconies. And then lots of people have volunteered to watch him since then. And so because of all these spaces, my wife's in our unit, she can hang out. They can hang out there sometimes. We can walk around here. There's lots of different places to go.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool.
What a cool lifestyle. That is really, that's really great. Of course, I'm a generation ahead, and I lived in high rises as an adult. I grew up in a home, lived in high rises, and then thought I would, get married, start to have kids, and move out to the suburbs.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the transition.
Yeah.
And I never got married. I didn't get, well, I've gotten married now, but I went till I was almost 60 years old before I got married for the first time.
Okay.
So I was single all those years, and I really I wanted to get something more domestic instead of just high-rise living.
Yeah.
I longed for like a tree-lined street and that kind of thing. So I bought an apartment building near Wrigley Field, and that was a tree-lined street. But as a single guy, and it was only 15 minutes from the stores, and I was, basically a workaholic because I was married to the stores.
Yeah.
And worked out great, So, and I thought that's how it was going to be for me. Actually looked at homes in the suburbs as a single guy, and I realized, boy, if I wanted to feel isolated, buy a big home and be the only one in it.
Agreed.
So I passed on that and bought this apartment building, lived there for 17 years. Then I met my wife when I was turning 60. Got married just before I turned 62.
Is that your first marriage?
First marriage.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, so you were really devoted.
Yeah. The old saying of, until you meet, when will you know when you meet the right one? You'll know when you meet her.
Yeah.
And I didn't meet the right one until I was 60. So anyway, we just moved. She was not an apartment dweller at all. And we have 2 dogs, and, the idea of letting them out in the yard and that kind of thing. So we moved from near Wrigley Field to Glenview.
Okay.
I was telling Adam, and now we've got the bucolic neighborhood. We've got, very domestic. It's very domestic, and we love it. We got a lot of green, a lot of trees, a lot of, all the things we want, birds and wildlife and things like that. So we're doing it and loving it. So now we're fixing up the house. It was a really nice house, but then we decided, this is going to be our forever home. We want to be able to age in place. So we bought a ranch.
Smart.
So we have a basement. So the stairs are voluntary, not obligatory. Laundry room and everything's on the first floor. And so we got a nice big house. People say, wow, big house for 2 people and 2 dogs, but we love it. We love the extra space.
Yeah.
We love the opportunity to entertain, have people stay overnight if they want. Haven't had much of that yet, but we're looking for.
It's nice to have the option, and having a ranch lives so much better than a 2-story home, in my opinion. And it's hard because in the city you really can't do it.
Yeah.
Right. But in the suburbs, you can have the extra sprawling space.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to have wings of where you are.
It is.
To have this wider home with different sections.
Yeah.
Especially if you're entertaining. If you had a few, or you just don't want to drive back, you don't want to take an Uber, whatever it may be, stay the night. You got extra rooms, do
We've
it.
got we've got one room, we have 4 bedrooms. So one's our room, one's an office, and 2 are guest bedrooms. And then we have a basement where we have, places for people, a couch or something if it gets to that point. And it's carpeted. It's, really nice, a nice basement. And, we're got a pool table down there and a ping pong table. And, we're doing it up, because God willing, if our health allows us, we want to live in this house, and then still travel and do things and get away to Florida. Or my wife lived 35 years in Florida.
Okay.
From Illinois, but moved to Florida and then vowed she'd never move back. The old saying, never say never. And when we met, she moved back. And so we want to get away to Florida or other places, at least like once a month during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
We attempted to do 3 months in Florida this past winter.
Mm-hmm.
And when we made all the plans, after we made all the plans, which you got to do it at least 6 months in advance, we rented homes, VRBO type things. And we rented homes, and we planned to do it January, February, and March. And then we found this house in Glenview. And they wanted to stay, the previous owners wanted to stay till the end of the year. It was his grandfathers built the house. His grandfather built the house. And a lot of family tradition there. They wanted to stay through Christmas. So we closed in October. We said, okay, stay. It was one of those things where it was the peak. It was after the peak of the market, but still for hot properties, we had to do everything we could. So you can stay rent free. We paid over the asking price. Mm-hmm. We did everything, and we got the house.
Yeah.
So, but we plan on being there, for as long as we can. So we're investing in it. We're putting in a fire pit and
nice.
All the things I've always wanted to do but never could do. I didn't want to do it by myself anyway. I mean, there's no sense in a fire pit for the few times I might entertain, and now I can do those things because my wife and I can enjoy all these things whenever we want, So it's been great. We're really thrilled with how it's turning out. But we're spending a lot of money on our house. So, but that's okay.
It's where you live. It's where you enjoy.
That's right. Exactly right. So it's going to be our sanctuary, and I hate to sound cliche-ish, but we want to make it where we enjoy living there year round, summer, winter, whatever. So this coming winter, I thought going to Florida. So we went to Florida for 2 months and canceled the March plans because we wanted to come back and move.
Yeah.
So we got out of the apartment on January 1st, which was good. And then just came back just to move to Glenview in March because my wife couldn't stand it in our apartment with people above us and didn't have a designated area for the dogs. It was not good.
Before the market got to this state that it's in, every attorney would tell you never do that. Never let someone stay after the closing, never to give post-possession closing.
Right.
And then it became one of the quickest, easiest motivations while the market was hot as it is to say, okay, take your time.
Yeah.
We trust you.
Yeah.
Before it was always the number one no.
My attorney, the alarm bells went off. They said, we got to have this and that. We actually did a few things where, they lost a lot of money if they didn't move out.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out I knew the guy by sheer coincidence. I knew the guy of the couple that was selling. He was in the grocery business as well.
No way.
So we'd crossed paths before. And
small world.
His realtor and he were cousins. They shared the same last name. And I asked him, I said, you related to the people in the Stellas family in the grocery business. They owned a store on Diversey years ago. And she said, yeah, it's my cousin. He said, he's selling this house. I said, oh, so the trust factor, the commit, there was a little bit of a bond there because I had known him. So that took a little bit of the pressure off of like you said, they warned against staying,
Mm-hmm.
But it worked out fine. They were great. And it was a great transaction.
I'm local realtor John Grafft. Check out our YouTube channel, Grafft Real Estate, for the largest collection of curated properties here in Chicago. Whenever you're ready to buy or sell, drop a line, let's talk. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this interview.
How did you feel with that transition, living in the city for so long and going to the suburbs? Were you fearful?
No, I was ready.
Yeah.
I was more than ready. Mostly for my wife,
Mm-hmm.
because I knew it was relief for her. And as you know, relief for your wife is relief for you. And it's something I had wanted, in my past, but I wasn't going to do it by myself.
Okay.
And I actually looked at homes in the suburbs and signed on the dotted line on a couple of them and backed out. when the reality was upon me that I was going to be in this big house
Yeah.
and I'd be by myself, I thought, nah, I don't want to, you know. And so I bought. The building was perfect for me because a single guy. There were other people in the building. Even the idea of hearing people was a source of comfort for me, knowing other
I
people.
agree
in
with
the
you
building.
100%. I love the city noise. You know, the train's right back here, and I'm much higher, but you still hear it a little bit. I like how it trickles into the unit.
Yeah.
Reminds you of the life around you.
Yeah.
And there's something about knowing there's lots of people
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, yeah. So that was cool. So it served me well, and now it's an investment property. I didn't sell it, and as of August 17th, it's fully rented.
Right.
And I invested money in, talking about money going out. We're spending money on our house, we're spending money on our investment property, but now we're almost done with all that, or we will be at the house in another couple of months, and now the money's going to start coming in. And the big bills will settle down. So I'm very happy about how it's turned out. I go into the store now. I used to go in six days a week, and my only hobby was boating. I was a boater, and
Bowling or boating?
boating.
Boating. Okay.
Well, bowling too, but
Yeah.
boating mostly, yeah. And for 25 years or longer, it was my passion.
Which harbor were you at?
I was at Diversey for a short time, and I was at 31st Street Harbor.
Okay.
For most of the time, about 10 years, and loved it. It was great for a single guy. I didn't date much, and I had a community of friends, and between that and my family, I was occupied socially. I was just missing that one, that special person, and I was resigned that it wasn't going to happen. I was going to make the best of it, and I was living a good life, with it, but something was missing, and I was at my buddy's 60th birthday party. We all turned 60 6 years ago, and he lived 130 miles away in Bloomington, Illinois. And something about it, we'd see each other or talk once a year maybe. We had mutual college friends, and that's how we met. Went to U of I in Champaign, and I met some people from Pontiac, Illinois, and he was from Pontiac. And once I met this one guy from Pontiac, we became very close friends, and I met all his friends. This guy was one of them, and I was at his 60th birthday party, and his sister was there, and we met, and one thing led to another, and we married. So it's cool.
Being the CEO of a grocery chain, how do you manage the work-life balance?
It's easier now because two things have happened. I got married, and then my nephew, third generation, joined the business 2 years ago, and he had 8 years experience with Mariano's in management. They taught him things we could never teach him, and he came with experience, that we didn't have. So actually, he brought something to the table versus just learning the business from us. So he's doing the day-to-day operation. He's overseeing the day-to-day operations. I have three key managers that have been with me. The least senior one has been with me over 26 years, and the other two have been with me with the company coming up on 50 years.
Wow. So
they know what they're doing. And my style of management was kind of let them do their thing and oversee them, so that when COVID hit, I could just step back. They were used to running the day-to-day operations. They were used to doing, having a lot of latitude, making their own decisions. And for health reasons, I chose to stay home during COVID for a solid year. I didn't enter the stores.
Okay.
And they handled it, especially my one manager at State Street. We were broken into twice in the riots, and he handled it both times. You'd think if there was ever a time when the owner needed to be there,
Yeah.
you'd think that's when. And I called him. I said, "I got to be there." He says, first of all, he says, I'm not sure it's safe because the rioting was like overnight.
Yeah.
And he says, we got it. He did the cleanup. I could do the insurance stuff over the phone and over the computer. So that was not a big deal. And they rebounded twice without me even being there. And of course, handling the day-to-day situation. But a lot of people stepped up, not just my store manager. And it was very gratifying to see them handle it. And I wasn't there. So I go in now a lot less, one day a week. I'm in touch with them on a regular basis, but I can come in, as I come and go as I please. I've been doing that for a long time, coming and going as I please. You have to have good people who you can trust, number one, and people that are passionate about it, dedicated, and want to see it done the right way for their own reasons, not my reasons. And our reasons were the same, but they were doing it for their own reasons. So it's working out really well.
How do you influence people to come in through the ranks? So I imagine you have someone who's worked in the business for so long, you build trust.
Yeah.
How do you recognize that person to keep leveling up?
We have a variety of opportunities. And we have, I just left the Clark Street store, and there's a woman who's worked for us for 60 years, and she's still working part-time. And she loves it. She's passionate about it. We offer all the opportunities. We offer entry level. We offer part-time. We offer temporary positions. We offer stepping stones in their careers that might be outside the business, stepping stones within the company. We offer everything. And the people that are in the positions have pretty much all come up through the ranks. A few not, but they've all come up through the ranks. And like I said, my store manager, 25 years with us. The other two store managers, 50 years. And now we have a new store manager. One of them has retired. And a new store manager. He was a part-timer in college. And he got to know us, and we got to know him. And now 10 years later, probably over 10 years later, he's the store manager of our Clark Street location. So we just offer those opportunities, and then it kind of works itself out. And it's always better to hire from within. As a small company, it's tough to do really for a lot of positions, but we've been fortunate, and it's worked for us.
Is there another family-owned grocery store in Chicago?
There are. They're probably mostly bigger than us.
Okay.
There are. I'm trying to think of. I think Pete's Markets. They're family owned.
Mm-hmm.
They've had phenomenal growth. I'm trying to think. Tony's was until recently.
Okay.
They just sold out.
Purchased them.
I forget. It was
Private equity?
something like private equity, I think. Yeah. But I'm trying to think, and there are some smaller ones. There's a gentleman. I don't know if they're family owned, but they're small independents. There's Carnival Foods on Lincoln Avenue. He's still doing his thing, and he's got two stores, I think, one in the suburbs, one in the city.
Okay.
And I'm sure nothing comes to mind right now. Yeah, I mean, there's a few out there, but they're less and less.
It makes me think, or talking about that makes me think about Kroger's buying Albertsons.
Yeah.
And I think the Justice Department just threw out the case of that being antitrust, right? And that's interesting because I have a Jewel right here, I have a Jewel right there.
Yeah.
And then you have Mariana's not too far away,
Correct.
but it's all going to be Kroger now.
Correct.
And how do you stay competitive with pricing, or how do you keep a landscape that is fair to the consumer?
Right. Well, there's two sides to that. One is there's a lot of competition out there. In the credit card business, for example, two companies share 85% of the business or more, Visa and MasterCard. And nobody's talking about breaking them up seriously. So for Kroger and Albertsons to join, they wouldn't even be. I mean, I think the biggest is Walmart, and they're like 15 or 16% of the market.
I heard that was part of the justification for that being thrown out. They're like, Walmart's everywhere.
Yes. Can you imagine? I mean, there's a small independent against a big giant like that, meaning Walmart, but yet Kroger and Albertsons felt in order for them to compete, they had to grow and become bigger. And that's kind of daunting for a smaller independent like us. Thankfully, we don't try to go toe-to-toe with them or head-to-head in competition, but we are competing with them in the same market. I don't think it's a great thing for consumers, but consolidation is happening in every industry. There's a little bit less competition in Chicago when those two finally do merge, but I think there's still plenty of competition where there's no motivation for them to start really jacking prices or doing things that are uncompetitive, because they want business, they want to grow, they want to get as much business as they can. And at the amount of market share they have nationally, there's still an incentive to be aggressive. And traditionally, the grocery business has been really aggressive. The age-old net margin in the grocery business is less than 2%.
Really?
Yes. And
very volume based then.
Very volume based. And historically, as big changes in the industry, technological changes have occurred, for example, scanning years ago, long before your lifetime. I remember when it went from item price marking, where the price was on each package.
The person's just typing it in and
just typing it in. Then it went to scanning. And even that saved a lot of labor, a lot of efficiencies, and the margins in the grocery industry stayed at 2% or less, which means they're passing it along because they're competing for people's business.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, and then the same thing with self-checkout and things like that, they continue to pass along their savings to the consumer in order to compete for business. So I think it's a good thing. I think, in general, it's a competitive business. We become smaller yet when Kroger and Albertsons become bigger or, merge together. And we'll continue to fight those battles. And we've been doing it for 73 years. We'll continue to do it with a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work. We'll continue.
I've always seen your stores as not competing with anyone.
Yeah.
Because your locations are central.
Yeah.
And you really target, or you're just really around an audience that is going to go out of convenience.
Yeah.
Like your Sandburg Village location, where else do you go?
Right.
You have that right there.
Right.
It's right there. You're not going to go anywhere else. You could walk a few blocks for sure.
Right.
But the person who just wants a clamshell of blueberries, or just wants a frozen pizza, or just wants some fresh food,
right,
they're going to go right downstairs and grab it.
Right. Right.
And that seems to be a very competitive edge for what you offer.
And that's the niche we found. I mean, there was a time in the 60s, late 60s, 70s, we were going head to head with the chains, and the market was vastly different. And of course, they got bigger both in scope and the size. Their footprints got bigger. So as their footprints got bigger, we got smaller just by staying the same size. Relatively, we were not small. So we become more convenient oriented. Somebody said, I'm quoting a friend of mine, said, we're not a convenience store, but we're a convenient store,
I like that,
based on our locations. And we work that, very, very hard. And we don't, we don't want to sound arrogant when we say it, but we really don't compete with the chains. We don't really compete with anybody. We've tried to find our own niche for our customers, and it's worked out well for us. And it's not easy, but it's a cool challenge.
Being a small family-owned business, I feel that people in the neighborhood also want to support you. They know what that is, and there's so few of those left.
Yes.
That being able to work hand in hand, even if they don't know you, they don't know who Art is.
Yes.
They know the name. And I have a question. Potash, what is it?
We love that argument. You know what I mean? We love that all my career, people have asked me that question. And our answer is, especially when they're shopping our store, however you pronounce it, that's how we pronounce it, because it's your store, not ours, So, but our family pronounces Potash.
Potash. Okay.
And, but I've heard Potash is probably more popular, more prevalent.
To me, that seems like the phonetic reading.
Yeah.
For me, it is. That's how I called it that for years. And then someone corrected me. I was like, okay, it's Potash. Got it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't roll off my tongue because I was saying Potash for over a decade.
I know. Yeah. And that's fine too. When you write the checkout, it's the same, but, we don't. I like the conversation and so that's how we pronounce. We pronounce it Potash. And it's, you're right. Being family owned or being, an independent has some benefits, especially these days more than ever, but you still got to come across with the goods. And if you don't treat people right, and you don't have fresh products, and you don't, live up to their expectations, then it doesn't matter whether you're surrounded by this feeling of, I want to shop the independent guy. That's going to wear out pretty quickly. You got to really come across for customers. That's the challenge.
That's a great point. What are the grocery trends that are changing that you have to keep up with to make sure that you're on that front?
Well, part of it is technology. Part of it is efficiencies. There's a big gap between the independents and the big chains in both those areas. And we make up for it in customer service. We make up for it in teamwork, cooperation. We've gotten to a point where, you're not hired as a cashier, or you're not hired just as a stocker. you're not even hired really just in the deli. Although we have people that just do those departments. We try and encourage everybody to learn more than one department. And most people are learning a variety of 4 or 5 different areas that they can help in. And then the staff just moves between those areas as needed. And that's how we kind of, get our efficiencies that we don't have in other areas that the chains really command. So it's technology is another one. We're trying to keep up technologically in terms of their social media and marketing and their loyalty programs. There's a gap there. There's a challenge there, and they just have the sheer buying power. Again, like we said, Kroger and Albertsons want to improve their buying power to compete more with Walmart. So we struggle there, but we make up for it in other ways. Our locations, as you mentioned, we're blessed with great locations, and then we try and take care of customers and serve our niche instead of trying to serve everybody. And I think that's the key for us.
One thing you're talking about loyalty programs, and it made me think of Let Us Entertain You.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many friends that always want to go to a Let Us Entertain You restaurant because of the points.
Mm-hmm.
And you get 10% off, and then you accumulate the points.
Yeah.
And it really adds up. When you're creating a loyalty program, what do you think about it? How do you do it to differentiate?
We've struggled with our loyalty program, to be honest, because our customers really aren't that price sensitive. So to give them promotions, to give them dollars off is not that big of an incentive. My favorite example is we put out these, we call them shippers in the industry. They're cases of product that are engineered to unfold them and stack them so they're ready for display for customers.
Okay.
And some of them come with promotional items, coupons and things like that. And we'll put out a shipper for display that has the coupons right there, and the shipper will empty, but nobody will take the coupons.
Really?
I think there's a little bit of a stigma amongst some of our customers about presenting a coupon, maybe.
Any customer,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, maybe not a Walmart customer, but
Yeah.
especially someone in the city. There is a stigma with pulling out a coupon and being that person. It's like pulling out a checkbook. Like, can you imagine if someone were still writing checks at the cashier?
Yeah.
But I grew up, I remember my mom writing checks. I remember seeing people write checks to the
Yes,
grocery
yes.
store all the time.
Yes, it was the number one transaction method
Was it?
forever, for a long, long time, and it's changed. So the loyalty program, we're still struggling with that one, but it's got to be based on something else other than getting a better price, because people aren't that motivated that shop in our stores for a better price as a promotion as an incentive to shop.
So you're having a struggle finding what that incentive could possibly be
Yes,
that would incentivize someone to use a loyalty program.
correct.
Because even if you're just scanning something, what does it accumulate or what does it create in terms of value for you and the customer?
Right. And it's another step in the transaction.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, city customers are on the move.
Time sensitive.
Time sensitive.
Another piece of friction is going to slow it down. They probably just don't want to do it. I don't use the scanner thing at Mariano's or anywhere else. I don't want to have it on my keychain. You talk about stigma.
Yeah.
I don't like the little thing on my keychain.
Yeah.
As stupid as that is.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I just don't want it. It's another thing. I have a fob for here and I have a fob for another building, and that's it. I don't even have any keys.
And that's people life in the city, and that's been for a long time. And the technology has changed, but the mentality has been the same. It's like you want to get them in and you want to get them out.
Yeah.
And that's been another area that we've really that's been a big deal for us. Something we've prioritized is fast checkout, not waiting in lines. Customers that are in the city, everybody's in a hurry, but city customers are a little bit more hurried than probably suburban customers. And
You're trying to pop in, pop out.
Yeah.
There's no car, there's no walk. I call this the suburban jewel over here, and I call this the urban jewel.
Yeah.
Because that has a parking lot.
Yeah.
And I hate it. It's just, for 9 years, I didn't have a car, to give you some background.
Yeah.
I just got one because I have a son. And I don't like pulling in and parking and walking. Even that minute just seems like wasted time to me. I just want to walk, and the walk takes longer.
Yeah.
But there's something about walking. I feel like I'm doing something. I'm seeing the city. I see the people out. You feel the energy.
Yeah.
And I can go to the grocery store and then walk back with my groceries. And there's something rewarding about walking into a grocery store and walking out and just going home and unloading them.
Yes. Yes. It's part of the lifestyle.
Yeah.
It really is. People live in this part of the city, especially, they're walking everywhere. Less than half the people have cars. And, they want to be able to walk in and walk out. That limits us a little bit because people only want to take home what they can carry. And so there's not as much stocking up. Plus, in apartment living, they don't have a lot of storage.
Correct.
Opportunities for storage. So it's more day-to-day shopping, and that's what we've kind of geared. Our sizes are smaller. We carry smaller sizes that chains probably don't carry. And we serve smaller sizes, like a quarter pound of potato salad or a quarter pound of lunch meat, where they're buying it a pound at a time or half pound at a time in the suburbs. So our mix has helped us. We cater to the type of customers. It's less to carry home, and they're shopping more often.
I think people take it for granted today, but you were the first store I ever saw that delivered groceries. And you guys, how long have you been doing that for?
Forever. We've been doing it for all 73 years.
Yeah.
We've been delivering groceries.
Really, since the very beginning.
On bicycles with a big basket in front. We'd walk them. We would put them in. I remember as a kid, we had a Volkswagen Beetle that had the front passenger seat taken out of it. And it was like a mini delivery van.
No way.
It's kind of like something you probably more likely see in Europe than you would in Chicago. But we've tried every different way to deliver groceries. So we've been doing it forever.
Do you know the percentage of your business that takes?
It's a small percentage.
Is it?
It was more at one time. Now with the delivery, with ordering online and home delivery, electronically and Instacart and things like that, it's dwindled. It's still a key part of our business. Not so much because of the numbers, just because of it as a service. But we're still doing it. I don't know what percentage it is. It's 10% or maybe
Okay.
somewhere around.
That's what I would have guessed.
Yeah.
Do you know if that targets or if that speaks to an older consumer? Someone who doesn't want to leave their home?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Who've been with the brand for years.
Yes.
Have always relied on that. And that person's not going to pick up their phone and do Instacart. They're just going to call Potash or however you do it.
Correct. And they've been doing that. And we have people designated to take the calls and then shop the orders.
Okay.
And we do it every way now, technologically.
It seems so personalized.
It is.
And that's an edge that I appreciate as a consumer, and it makes me want to shop at your stores. Just knowing that it's possible. I'm not going to use it.
Right.
But knowing that you offer it shows me that you're doing something that other people aren't. And I don't want to use Instacart. It's nothing against Instacart, but I don't like the whole idea of just inserting a middleman to do something. I'd rather go to the source to get it.
Yeah. Well, and our perspective is we want to offer all the options to our customers and then let them decide. So we offer Instacart, we offer the personal shopping, we offer online shopping through Mercado, a company called Mercado. We do all the opportunities. We open all the opportunities to the customer, and then they decide how they want to shop. And of course, most people come in and shop, and that we've got to be open to that. Otherwise, if we weren't open to changing, we probably wouldn't be here now. So we offer it to them, and then they make the call.
What's the story? What's the family story? How the stores start?
I think it's a great story. My father and his two brothers. My dad was the youngest of three Potash brothers. My uncle Herbie was the kind of the leader of the effort. My mother says that as she reflects, she says that whatever my uncle Herbie would have gone into for business, his two brothers probably would have followed him. So if he went into the furniture business, maybe we'd be in the furniture business. But he chose the grocery business. So his next two brothers followed him into the grocery business. And the sisters worked, there were 9 siblings of that generation. And I'd say probably 7 of them, 3 boys and 6 girls, and probably 4 of those 6 sisters. So really, there was some talk that we could have been called Potash. We were called Potash Brothers for a time.
I've seen that on the old signs.
Yeah. That was the name for many, many years at the State Street location. And and then I changed the name for the company to Potash Brothers years ago. And then finally we went to Potash Markets. But as Potash Brothers, it probably could have been called Potash Brothers and Sisters, because the sisters were, involved in the business as much as everybody else, especially my Aunt Marion Schumann. She was there for 50, 60 years with her 2 brothers. So my oldest uncle, Herb, he went and did his own thing with a store on State Street. And then my dad and my Uncle Dave, his older brother, my Uncle Dave, they opened a store on Clark Street back in the 50s and 60s.
That's been there that long?
It's been there that long, yeah. Well, in different facilities.
Okay.
So each store has been transplanted from an older facility to a new facility right in the same spot.
Okay.
Just the way it worked out. And my uncle and my dad, my Uncle Herbie and my dad were both kind of like CEO mentality. So my uncle recognized that you can't have two chiefs, under one roof. So he went and did his own thing. The brothers were very tight. So they worked together. I remember as a kid, they even had a phone in the old days when they had, for landlines, they had a landline phone in each store that only went to the other store.
Just pick it up and it calls
Pick
directly?
it up and it calls
That's cool.
the one location, like a bat phone
Yeah.
type thing. It was very cool. That's how tight they were. But they advertised separately. They did their own, but they worked together. And they did it that way for many, many years. And then when I got involved, then my oldest uncle wanted to retire. So he said, well, I'll close my store and I'll be done. But he owned the property on State Street where the new building was built, or One East Delaware building. And he said, I'll be the landlord. You guys take it over from here. Financially, you invest in the new store. It's a very generous move. He could have sold his business. Mm-hmm. He chose not to for the sake of the family and the longevity. And he and I had a very special relationship. He found a way to have a special relationship with all his nieces and nephews. He probably had 18 or 19 nieces and nephews. And he found a way to have a special relationship with each of them. And he and I had a special relationship because we ended up going into business together. He was my landlord, ultimately. And then my dad and my Uncle Dave, we became partners, 1/3 partners for a while. And then ultimately I bought them out as we all got older. And that worked out very, very well. And, so it's been a great tradition. And now my nephew is coming into the business. So I hope to pass it along to him. And he's got the same opportunities I had. And if you're willing to work hard and you play it smart, then you can earn a living or better, and that's part of the challenge. But it's been the family business. It's been, there are two sides to the family business. They've some real disasters, but when it works, it's really gratifying. And ours has worked. And I was blessed with two uncles that were kind of like father figures for me. And my father was very generous to me because he was passing the business from him to his son. But my uncles, it's your nephew. It's a little bit different. But they treated me as if really I was their son, and they were generous with their time. They were generous with their expertise. They're generous with their faith in me. They allowed me to make my own mistakes. My Uncle Dave and my dad and I, as 1/3 partners, nobody ever pointed the finger and said that was your, we made decisions by consensus, and nobody ever said, you know what, that didn't work out. That was your idea. We shouldn't have done that. We were in it together, and we succeeded and failed together. It was very, very great. I'm blessed that I was able to be a part of the chemistry that was those three brothers, the Potash brothers, and I'm grateful I was able to be part of it.
Outside of your nephew, are there any other family members that are part of the crew?
Time will tell. My nieces and nephews, probably not my nieces so much. They've had the opportunity if they want it, but they're coming up and they're doing their own thing. I have one or two other nephews that might be interested. We'll see how it shakes out, but we'll see. Time will tell, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Will you give him a sweetheart deal too if you ever?
I will. That's my plan.
Mm-hmm.
My plan is to. I want to pass it along on all levels.
That's
I was
great.
the beneficiary of generosity, and I'd feel remiss. It'd just be against my core to not do everything I could to pass it along to Max, my nephew Max, and his Max Potash. So it's my brother's son. So the Potash name is also continuing, which that wasn't a requirement. But I have nephews. I have a nephew on the other side of my family too, which it wouldn't matter. But yeah, so he's carrying on the tradition, and I want to do everything I can to see it through to the end to support myself and my wife, and then let him have all the benefits. And during tough times, you need the generosity has been beneficial during tough times when if it weren't a good situation, it would have been very tough to stay in business. So there are struggles when you're in business for a long time, and you got to be able to. It's one thing to reach the heights when you're doing well. It's another thing to have staying power when things are tough, and that's where most businesses that's where they fail during the tough times. They just can't do it anymore. They don't have the will or most of the finances. But we've been lucky. We have I don't want to jinx it, but we have a knack for hanging in there, during tough times.
What trends have you seen in food in terms of what's changed? If you look back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years,
Yeah.
are there any pinnacles of change that have the defined an era or define that decade, or things that you see that you never thought you would see?
The most recent one is self-checkout. Technologically, and COVID changed a lot of things. The thing with COVID is in every area, not just the grocery business or consumer habits. Once things change, they never go back to the way they were. Some things might return, some aspects of it might return. People's buying habits, but in general, it's like a river. Once it changes course, it's never going back. And buying habits have changed, and self-checkout has changed the mentality. And people make fun of it. Some of them, about they're being they're not employees, and why should they check out? But again, it's like choose your method.
I think people appreciate it. Younger people, they're like, I just go right through.
Right, and our thing was let the customer decide. I mean, that's kind of something that I will repeat, because that influences how we approach the business. Is give the customer a choice. And if those want self-checkout, by the time we got to self-checkout, just in the one store on State Street, it was at that point of, I felt we were doing a disservice if we didn't offer it to our customers who want to just get in and get out and want to talk to anybody. They want to just do their thing and move on. And that's helped them. Self-checkout is helping to do that. We still offer, people at the check stands, if we get lines for, we open up manned checkouts, if that's how they want to shop. And that's worked out well. So that's been one. COVID changed a lot of things in terms of buying habits. And a lot, again, over the many years that I've been doing it, so many things have changed. Prepared foods, people eat, from the grocery store, get food. It used to be just rotisserie chicken was the only thing you offered. That was like progressive. And we offer now places to eat. You got to have a place to sit. A customer came to me one time years ago and said, I'm going to a meeting. I need something to eat, like a yogurt and a thing of juice. And I'd like to just sit down. There's no place in the winter, especially, there's no place to just go sit. So we carved out a little area for customers to sit. And now, people are doing it, the real progressive grocery stores are offering, they have restaurants.
They have alcohol. You have a glass of wine and you're pushing your cart.
Yeah. So that's really changed, and that's how people want to do it. And I think it's exciting. I think it's fun. Yeah. It's a cool way of doing business. And we want to do more of that. We're behind on some trends, but we're keeping our eye on them. And they put in self-checkouts, and then they were putting them in, then they were taking them out, and they're putting them in again.
Well, people are, they're buying steaks, but they're checking them out as bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the risk. But yeah, people are, but they have methods to kind of keep their eye on that, because you got to put it on the scale, and they know a piece of meat weighs a certain thing and a banana weighs a certain thing, or a banana. There's ways to beat anything, I suppose, but we've had pretty good luck with not too much of that kind of thing with self-checkout. It's been a great boon for us, because during some parts of COVID, we didn't have the staff. If we had to man all the checkouts, people would be waiting in line. So we were thankful that self-checkouts were available, that we got them just before COVID at the one store. And it's worked out very, very well. Other trends, people have choices now. It used to be you went to a grocery store, again, years ago in the 60s and 70s, and you picked your store, and that was your store. Now, most everybody, they shop by, I get this at this store, I get this other thing at this other store.
That's how we shop.
And I like produce here, I like their meat over here, I like, and that's how people shop. And so we just want to be part of the rotation. That's our hope, is that we're part of the rotation of how people shop. And, part of our niche is we're listening to the customer. So if you go into a big store and you say, could you carry this item? Probably not going to happen. But you come into one of our stores and you say, can you carry this item? That store, and if you go to the store manager, that store manager's listening, and he's going to try and get that item for you. And the only time we would carry it is if we couldn't get it. And then there's nothing we can do. But we'll carry an item, see if it goes, because usually if one customer's asking for it, somebody else would want it. And then we try it. If it sells, then we carry it. If it doesn't sell, then we tried it, satisfied one customer, and we move on. And then if that customer says, well, I can't get any more, we might order it. We'll tell a customer, if you'll buy a case, sometimes a case is just 6 items. Well, if you'll buy a case, we won't stock it to the shelf because we can't sell it. But if you want to wait and buy a case at a time, we'll bring it in for you on a per order basis. Happy to do it. So the chains can't do that, or they choose not to. So those are some things that we do. It comes to mind as we're talking, but that's part of the service that we get, and the attention to customers, and we try to acknowledge a customer who shops you regularly, and customers appreciate. Almost everybody likes to be acknowledged or recognized. Doesn't have to be by name necessarily. Sometimes it is, but they like to know that you're a repeat customer, and we know you're a repeat customer, and we appreciate it. And we encourage our staff to do that. And most they do. It makes it more fun when you do that. And that's something else we do because everybody likes to be acknowledged for their patronage, for their shopping. And it works both ways. Then the customer likes it, the staff enjoy it, and it makes it more than just we're transacting business. It's more personal.
In a positive way, when I've shopped at your stores, I've always felt that your staff, or specifically the cashiers, kind of have an old world charm to them. Mm-hmm. As in, they're friendly, mm-hmm. they're nice. Mm-hmm. It's very uncityish.
Yeah.
If you go to Jewel,
mm-hmm.
it's the exact opposite experience, mm-hmm. right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no level of love, care, happy you're here, happy to help, happy to do this.
Yeah.
How do you get that? I mean, how do you hire people to make sure that that person's there? Because you have it at all your stores.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm glad to hear that because we try.
Yeah.
We work very hard at it. Part of what we do is when we hire people through the selection process, we try to hire. If you hire someone who's got a great personality, you're off. They make you look good. It makes your job much easier. There's a saying in the grocery industry: hire tough, manage easy. Mm-hmm. So if you're selective about who you hire, then your management's is going to be easy.
It's very true.
And then we also encourage people. Some people need to come out of their shell. Some people are very shy. And we just encourage them to say, look, you don't have to be outgoing. Just be pleasant. A smile goes a long, long way. I learned that at a young age. My dad taught me that in business at a young age, that, a smile goes a long way. And I may be a little off the subject, but when I was a kid, Sandra Village was rental. We used to go through the Sandra Village buildings and distribute our weekly flyers under the door. It had to go under the door because otherwise it made a mess in the hallways. Mm-hmm. We went up there 7, 8 buildings, and I was like the lead guy. I was the oldest of 3 boys. My brothers and some of our friends would go through the buildings, and we'd go, starting with, and they're numbered, they're lettered, A building, Elcott House, Bryant. They're done for a reason. It's A, B, C,
Cummings,
D,
Dickinson,
E, F, okay, and then they kind of got off of it. But we went through all the buildings, and we'd go start at the top.
What's the E?
Elliott House.
Elliott House. Then you have Faulkner. You have, anyway.
Yeah. Kilmer.
James House.
House, Kilmer, Lowell.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So my brothers and I, we'd start at the top floors. We'd take the stairways down. And there was a building engineer who, of course, we made his job tougher if we didn't do our job, because that meant he was going to have to clean up after us. So he was mean. And when we saw him, when he was mean, we would run from him. We were scared of him.
How old were you?
11, 12 years old.
That's awesome.
And my brothers were younger. And so I went to my dad. I was kind of like our spokesman. It was my first taste of management. I was like leader for my 2 younger brothers. So I went to my dad and I said, this guy is really mean. My dad says, tell you what, here's what you do. He says, his name was, I hope it was years ago. His name was Mr. Cece. He says, here's what you do. When you see him, don't run, don't get mad. When you see him coming in, you say, wave and smile and say, hi, Mr. Cece, how you doing? And just do that every time you see him. Don't run from him. Don't make it look like you're doing something wrong. And see how it goes. Well, I don't know how long it took. The memory fades. But after a short time, Mr. Cece was our best friend. He'd be like, hi, guys, how you doing? He'd like to see us. And, it became a bonding thing. It was like my first lesson in person-to-person, relationship skills or dealing with people. And it was wonderful. That was the kind of thing my dad did. He was very, good with being able to relate to us as kids, both at work, but also, at home in ways we understood things. And so that's what we did. We did the circulars and we went through the buildings, and that was our first job. But that's how we learned, about dealing with people. So same rules apply in terms of the smile. I tell people all the time, especially young people coming into business. My wife and I spoke in front of Cub Scout troop a few years ago, and they asked about, selling and sales, and it starts with a smile. We've all got one. We've all got great smiles when we use them. It just disarms people. They know you're not, they know you're not, doing anything negative, when you do it genuinely. And you smile and you disarm people if
they see a real person too.
They see a real.
They see themselves. It's like looking in a mirror.
And they see an intention. They see, okay, this guy's smiling. I mean, there could be con people out there as you get older, but that's a different story. But for a young person to learn, whether it's entry level at the store, it's smile. You can be quiet and smile. If you smile and you're quiet, people love that. And if you're outgoing and you want to smile, even better. And I can think of one cashier. She started out she's still with us. She started out as a bagger and very shy, but industrious. She would do her work. And finally we told her, we said, look, we don't really have a place for you as a bagger. There isn't a place really for baggers anymore. Everybody's got to be cashiers and help bag. Mm-hmm. And we kind of,
I remember that. There used to be a person.
There used to be a person.
There used to be two people at every cashier.
Yeah. With the increase in minimum wage, it's kind of become not economically feasible for a lot of operators. Some still do it, but you still don't see the 2-person team anymore. Even the chains, the baggers float around. But anyway, so we said, look, try it. We just kind of coerced her into saying, just try it. But she's a cashier. She's still quiet, but she's very comfortable cashiering. She's very trustworthy, and she helps at our Hancock location, and where she doesn't have supervision all the time, and we can rely on her to do her thing. So she'd become someone who, needed to come out of her shell, but at least she's pleasant and she smiles. It's just start with a smile.
How do you develop your leadership as business continues, as you get older? Mm-hmm. How are you making sure that you're developing?
Well, that's an excellent question. I'm part of 2 share groups.
Okay.
The industry, well, there's share groups. It's a great phenomenon. It's not new really, but the idea of sharing is
a mastermind.
Pardon?
A mastermind.
Right. The idea of collaborating. I'm in 2 types of share groups. I'm in one I call a grocer share group. So we're all grocers, but the idea of a share group is
it local? Is it national?
It's got to be national. For me, the grocer share group has to be people from different parts of the country. Yeah. Because if you're in a share group with your competitor, you're not going to share.
Yes.
It's just a fact of life. Mm-hmm. So share groups by their nature have to be people who don't compete together in a room. So for a grocer's share group, it's got to be people who operate in different parts of the country. So I'm in one of those. And then I'm in a local share group, but none of us are in the same business, or we're in unrelated businesses. If they're in the same industry, they don't compete head to head. And so people are willing
like
to
a tip or Toastmasters or.
I'm in a group called Vistage.
Vistage, okay.
It's CEO and it's for CEO. Well, they have various levels, but it's mostly for CEOs.
Okay.
And it's based on the idea of there are things that are core values that can help somebody who's in an unrelated business with me with issues I'm having, whether it's people or relationships or competitive situations. They don't have to know my business to help me. The idea is they act like an industry shrink in a way. They ask the questions that force you to think through issues. And I find value in all of them. If there were one thing I could do for my business I would have joined a share group sooner in my career. And they're just phenomenal. You get to know people that you wouldn't get to know otherwise. You get ideas. They broaden your horizons. They challenge you. That's part of the idea is they challenge you. They give you information about what's happening in the world, related or unrelated to your industry. I recommend it. And my nephew's going to get involved pretty soon to open your horizons, to hear from others. Sometimes, the one thing about our share group is you may be having a problem that you're kind of procrastinating on, but still complaining about. And in this one, in both my share groups, if you complain
about every business, I think.
Yes.
Right. Every business owner has something that bothers them. They don't know how to fix it.
Right.
And it's nagging away at them, eating away every single day. And if they had people to talk to about it, they might solve that problem quicker.
Just by talking it out, sometimes help solve the problem. Sometimes you need to be challenged. So in my share groups, both of them, if you complain about something for too long, they'll tell you, they say, you know what? You've been complaining about this So either stop complaining because you're accepting it, or do something about it. You know, my brother and I, my youngest brother, he's a sounding board, not in the business, but he's got a good head on his shoulders. And we were talking about a specific employee that I was complaining about literally for years. And finally, one day he said to me, he said, you know, we've been talking about this person for a long time. He said, really, you should either make a decision or stop complaining about it because you've been accepting it. And I made my decision, and that was what. And the share groups do the same thing. It's like they'll challenge you, so that they'll give you advice sometimes, but most times they'll challenge you with questions. What about this? What about that? Have you thought about this? But really, a CEO has no excuse for not making a decision because they're the CEO. And so the share groups have been a real cool to broaden my horizons, to keep me on my toes, to continue to learn. I think that's important. I want to be learning till the day I die. You know, that's very important because once you stop learning, it's like that's the beginning of the end. What's the fun, you know, if you're not learning? So I've got plenty to keep me, you know, going. Plus, I like the thrill of, you know, being in business. It forces you to learn and to be on top of things because we're constantly, you know, responding to the changing landscape, and we have to, or we won't survive very long. Yeah.
How were you introduced to that group or the groups?
Through people I know in the industry. I hired a vendor. I hired somebody who helped us with hiring, with surveys, and people take personality tests and helps you.
Is it a DISC assessment?
That's one of them. I dealt with name escapes me right now, but anyway, I was working with him, and he said, you know, you might benefit by joining this Vistage share group. You know? And so I did, and I was glad I did. And prior to that, a guy in the grocery industry, I was part of an association called FMI. I'm still part of an association called FMI. It's the Food Industry Association, National and International Association for Retailers, Wholesalers, anything related to the food retailing. And he contacted me and he said, you know, first he vetted me. You know, they don't want someone who's just hanging on, who you know is just not willing to learn or change. And he asked me a few questions, and then after, I thought we were just out for lunch. And then after we talked, he said, "Did you ever consider a share group?"
Oh, interesting. So he asked you to lunch. You didn't know that's what his objective was.
Correct.
But after he felt that you'd be the right fit,
Right.
he propositioned.
And if he didn't think I was the right fit, it would have been just lunch. So that was, I got to tell you, it's been so rewarding on both a personal level and a professional level. These people have become my friends. People, because you confide in them about things about your business that you don't confide in most any other people. Not that we had great things to hide or keep confidential financially, but it's your finances, like your tax return, whatever it is, it's yours, it's personal. And but I share, you share finances because in order for them to help you, they really need to know the financial condition of
It's like going to a mechanic and not letting him look under the hood.
Right. We're going to the doctor and not telling them what your problems are.
Yeah.
I mean, the more you tell them, the more they know, the more they can potentially help you.
And with every question, they're going to learn more and they're going to get to the real issue.
Correct. So these guys we've all seen each other's financials. In fact, one guy complains, he cries poor a lot. And somebody in the group says, hey, we've seen your financials. You can't cry poor. You can complain if you want. It's okay. But you can't cry poor, That's the kind of thing that goes. It's like a fraternity because I've shared my financials with them. They've not your personal income, but your company financials, and they've shared theirs with me. So it's and you don't share that with anybody. It's an honor system. The last thing I would do is want to breach that and lose that confidence. But I've developed some great relationships because of those share groups, and I'm grateful for them. It's been very cool.
Are there any ways you tie into the community outside of your presence?
We do. We try to do donations to Little League to a degree, our churches, whatever cause a customer might come to us with and say, look, I'm part of this association. Can you make a donation, on behalf? Some of them are local versions of, bigger charities. Some of them are just personal programs that they're in, and whatever they come to with us. We almost don't tell anybody no, but we don't make a ton of large contributions. We try to spread it around rather than trying to tell somebody no. We say, well, we try to honor every request or almost any request but we can do this much, and and they're always grateful. They're grateful for something. So mostly when customers come to us for things, and then that continues, of course, once you do it, and then most of them become like a yearly thing, because that's how those things are. They come back year after year, and we're happy to do it because they're shopping with us. We're part of the community, and we get behind some programs, whether it's homelessness or hunger, because we're in the food industry, and we do that too as well. We and the schools. We did a lot with Ogden School for a long time. I had relationships with people at Ogden School. We haven't done much lately, but we're still doing some things. Like an art teacher would say, I need, supplies for an art project or something like this. We'll contribute. Or as I mentioned, we did one of our customers was very involved in the local Cub Scout troop, and we helped. We helped with our time. My wife Arlen and I did a couple of presentations. They wanted to know about sales, and my wife was in pharmaceutical sales. I'm in retail sales, and we both had something to offer for people that are young people that are looking ahead in life. And, it's fun to do. It's gratifying. It's part of helping each other out. Your customers shop with you, and we want to do things for them because that's part of being part of it. That's part of being a community grocery store. That's what we do. Neighborhood store.
How do you decide what goes on the shelves?
Trial and error. We've been doing it for a long time, so it's really more of an evolving thing. Customer requests is one of the big ones that we do. We solicit requests as part of our marketing and advertising.
How do you do that?
Well, in store, we put signs out there on our website. We, promote the idea that if you're looking for something, we do it. And we try and build a rapport with people so that they feel like they can ask. Because most times, if you're shopping a big store, really asking is not an option. It's either they carry it or they don't.
You don't even know who to talk to.
No.
And the person isn't vested or tied in. I feel like in a bigger chain, people are doing their job. And I feel like at your stores, people are part of the team.
Mm-hmm. And we encourage them to bring it up to us. If you hear something, mention it. We used to have slips of paper you fill out or whatever, and that come and gone. But we do that, and we're listening, and we're looking at the industry, the trade communications that tell us what's emerging trends. We go to the specialty food show. We haven't gone in a while. We've in the years past we've gone to the specialty food shows either in San Francisco or New York. Mm-hmm. We go to other industry events where they talk about products and things like that, and we hear from vendors that are promoting the next product. We try to be a big part of our business is specialty foods, things that are emerging, they're new, and they haven't reached the level where they haven't caught the chain's attention yet. So when someone's starting out, they usually go to the smaller operators to get in, and then once they get some momentum going, then they can get the attention of a bigger operator if they're inclined for that kind of thing. And so we've had several Skinny popcorn. We were their first, even on their website. I think at one point they acknowledged it. We were their first or their second customer.
No kidding.
Where they supplied us. They started with us. And
is that Chicago based?
It was at the time, I think. Yeah. And donkey chips. We were an early one for them. And then they move on. They go on to bigger ones. We still carry them, but we move on, to other things. But we look for people that are kind of like smaller than us from a producer or supplier standpoint. And for them to be in one of our stores is a big plus for them.
Yeah. And plus you have something no one else has.
Exactly. It helps us to differentiate our selection. And we get people to try things. A lot of them, some succeed, a lot of them don't. But, it's interesting. Our customers like to see new things. And when they've tried it and they like it, it's fine. And when they've tried it and they're over it, that's fine too. Because once they've moved on, we move on. We might carry it, we might not carry it, depending on how it sells otherwise. So it has like a peak where it sells. And then on the downside, it gets either discontinued or it goes on the shelf like every other product. And if it can maintain, steady movement, then we keep it. If not, then we're done with it. But our customers have moved on anyway, so it's okay. So it's really a rotating thing because we have limited space. Mm-hmm. The chains complain about limited space, and they're 10 times our size in some cases. But we are really limited. So we pick and choose. but we try to carry a large variety of new items to make it interesting for customers. And we try to do sampling, and a lot of it is vendor based, vendor supplied, and they promote, and now we've got a little bit of a reputation locally that if you have a new product and you're an upstart, that you could talk to one of our buyers and get in and then have a shot, at foothold for growth.
When you see a store like Whole Foods come in just a few blocks away, what's your thought? What goes through your mind?
Well, it's part of the business. Prefer it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like everybody else. Competition's always good for the other guy,
Yeah.
Not me. But, it's always made us better. It's something we try to hope that there's some distance geographically between us and our competitors, and that new Whole Foods is really close. But it's not on top of us. It gives us room to do our thing, and it challenges us and it forces us to be better. We've always come out of it better before, after the competition has, been there than before it was, before they were there. They were a block further away, and that really made a difference. But of course, they came up with this big new store, which we knew they would. They didn't disappoint.
That was a temporary store for sure. It had every earmarker of it, the old location, because it was kind of a rundown.
It
for
became
Whole
that way
Foods, it was
after
run
years.
down.
Yeah. And we know people who worked for Whole Foods, and they used to complain about that store, but they knew they're planning years and years ahead. They knew what was coming, and we look at each other staff wise and say, okay, we've got to sharpen our skills yet again to maintain our share of the business, and you take a little bit of a hit for a period of time, and you're always clawing your way back, and that's how we approach that one. And it has made us a better operator in the long run each time. So that's the way it is. It's not something we can control, but we're grateful that we have usually enough room for we can still do our thing. And we have to be flexible, and we have to look for opportunities. And it's worked out for us. It's made us better retailers.
Do you know what happened with Treasure Island?
I don't know, really. It's pure speculation. I don't know what happened to Treasure Island. They had great locations.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I asked, because their locations were prime, and they weren't on top of any other grocery stores.
Yeah.
And they seemed to have that specialty vibe too.
They did.
And then bankrupt and gone.
Yeah.
And one's an apartment building now. One's a climbing gym, I think. I don't know what happened with the other locations. The other one here was bought up, and they're trying to do this grand master plan on Wells Street that'll incorporate even like as far as the gas stations go, and they're trying to do an over area of that. I don't know if you've seen those plans.
Yeah.
But I was always curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say, what goes. It's like a household, never really what goes on internally. And they'd had enough, and they decided, it wasn't worth, because they had good locations, but they had a couple locations where, they rented, and the rents, I think, made it tough for them. So they made their decisions, and we benefited, a little bit from that, just having staying power. But it was a shame. They were great. We were friends, and we shared the neighborhood for years and years. They got the lion's share. We got what we got. We were happy with what we got. It served us well, and we continue to get, what we get. But yeah, they had a great model, and it's unfortunate, but it had run its course apparently, and then they decided they'd had enough.
A location like you have in the Hancock, how does that come about?
Through relationships.
Because that's a great, it's as captive as you can be.
Yes.
Unless you're charging twice as much as someone else.
Yeah.
I'm going downstairs.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving the building.
They have a lot. Yeah. Although it's funny you mention that, because, of course, there's been a grocery store in that building ever since the Hancock's been built.
It was Bockwinkel's before, right?
No.
No?
It was never Bockwinkel's.
Okay.
Bockwinkel's was on Michigan Avenue at one time, but not in the Hancock.
Okay.
I think we're the third or fourth operator. And the building,
So, sorry to interrupt you. So there were other grocery stores. I didn't even thought about that. And they just didn't succeed, or?
They did. I think for the first 35 years that the Hancock building was there, they never invested. So it was a homeowner association, that's from 44th floor where the store is at up.
Yep.
They're condos. And the homeowners association, they didn't really have the desire to upgrade the store. It was not their store. You know, it was an amenity to the building. And for 35 years, it never got upgraded.
So there's no tenant improvement.
No.
Yeah.
And it was looking ragged. And
I
then,
remember that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then they decided that the current operator, they were just unhappy with the current operator. Maybe the current operator wasn't being flexible, or the pressures of the business weren't allowing them to give the customers what they wanted. That happens a lot. A lot of things are volume-based, sales-based. If you're doing higher sales, you can do more. It's economics. Our stores are no different. We can do what the economics allow us to do. And the sales have gotten to a point where but they have a lot of options. If you live in the Hancock, like you're talking about all the options for grocery stores, they have plenty of options. And
Sort of.
yeah,
Sort
well,
of.
it depends on how convenient you want it to be.
Yeah.
But with Walgreens carrying food now, you know, if they want quick options.
That's funny. I would never think of
Limited
Walgreens as
options.
competition for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess in some way it is.
Especially in the convenience end of the spectrum, which
Yes.
is where we live.
If you're getting a frozen pizza,
Yeah, doesn't matter. So anyway, the Hancock, they had, of course, we were the closest major grocery store to the Hancock on our State Street location. And they asked us, I got a call from the property manager at one time, and he said, would you consider opening a store? And at the time, I wasn't interested. It was just too burdensome to do. And so I wasn't interested. We were a union, and we did okay with the union. It wasn't the union's fault. It was just an extra burden that I wasn't
you guys
interested
still union?
in our meat department only.
Okay.
And so then I turned them down. And then the employees voted the union out in 2006, somewhere around there. And now the property manager called me back, coincidentally, and said, you know, we have a lot of our customers shopping your store. They would love to have a Potash in the building. Would you consider? And I said, well, you know what? It was a nice sunny day in the summertime. I said, you know what? We can meet. Let's meet and talk. So I go up to his office, 44th floor, window facing north along Oak Street Beach. And it was the
It's a
air
great
show.
view, isn't it?
It was the air show. Well, no, it wasn't the air show yet. No, it's a great view. But a Coast Guard helicopter, the orange Coast Guard helicopter, passed by that building below us. I thought, this is really cool. I got to figure out a way to do a store here. So I looked at the store, and they had the aisles running along parallel to the window, so it blocked all the window views.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, just logically that you would never do that.
I know. They did it in the 70s, I guess. So whatever
Why
it was.
would you ever? That's so funny.
In fact, the freezers, which are the biggest fixture in a typical grocery store, were were not along the window, but the closest to the aisle to the window,
So blocking it further.
blocking it further.
Looking into a place is part of, okay, so we met here because this is more convenient for you. My office is on Southport. And I took that office. It's only 635 square feet, but it is 18 panes of glass. And it is one large length. It's not deep at all. It's maybe 12 feet deep at best.
Yeah.
But it is a billboard for me. And the inside of the office is the captivating part of it. I want people to look in and get curious. And that's why I did it. And a grocery store is the same way. You want to look in, you want to see what's going on.
Right.
Any store.
And so I said, well, look, I said, of course, they were talking about tearing the store down to the studs and rebuilding it back. And they asked us, because they don't know how to build grocery stores. They said, could you do it? Well, I had my designer. They hired my designer to do it. And we built the store. I said, look, I want to turn the aisles so that they go to, so the light flows through the aisles, you know, and filters through into the store. And the views so you get as much of the views as possible. And we talked about a few things. And to the credit of the Condo Association, they are the reason that we're there. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be there, because they controlled what our rent was, and it had to be something economically that made sense for us.
Well, they're stakeholders, right?
Yes.
And so not only are they shareholders, but they're stakeholders.
Yes.
And it is very much in their interest to have that convenience store right there and to offer you a rate that makes sense for you and give you the type of incentives to do it.
Yes. And it was
What a good relationship.
over 35 years, the building before we got there.
Because it's not interrupting. I'm just thinking about this, but like There is no landlord you could ever have that would have that same type of incentive.
Right.
Right? The landlord wants you to succeed for sure.
Right.
But they're not shopping there.
Right.
They don't have hundreds of people that are literally stakeholders and shareholders that are going to go to your store every day to make it exactly what they want.
Right.
That was a great call for you. I bet it was a big compliment.
But it was, and I was honored. But we had to look at it practically and decide what would be best for the building. So at the time, not the fault of the operator, but the facility had gotten, deteriorated over 35 years, wear and tear. And it got to the point where when real estate people were showing apartments in the building, condos and stuff like that, because you had to walk by the store to get to the
Every time.
And they told them, they said, cover that up because it's hurting your values because it looks bad. So they
Would you
covered
like
it
to
up.
hear that? Yeah.
They covered it up. So when I looked at the store, that window that you see through the aisle, that was covered up. And they said, of course, we'd want it covered up. I said, no. The type of store we want to run, facility-wise, we want to make it appealing, and it will remain appealing so that you want that window open. It's good for business. It's good for values.
What an interesting perspective. It gotten so bad that their view, because of the feedback they're getting, they're saying we just don't want to show it at all.
Right.
Instead of thinking of the asset it could be and how it could really brighten up the space and make it more appealing and make it an asset for someone purchasing within.
Right. Well, thankfully, the condo association at that time, and as condo associations go, they rotate based on leadership.
Very
members,
interesting
like
dynamics in associations.
They had come to that conclusion that this is an amenity for the building. It's instead of hurting values, it could increase values. They wanted to try and attract younger people to the building, which they've been successful in doing to some degree. And
it's a tough one.
it is.
It's a real. That building is like such an iconic tower of Chicago.
Yeah.
But convincing someone to live there is difficult.
It is difficult. And they thought that having a store would do it. And I think that helped to some degree.
Absolutely.
So we took that store over and great views and it's worked out very, very well. But if the condo association, like I said, if we didn't have a relationship with the condo board and the condo association, the property management there, then we wouldn't be there because they had to participate in terms of us being there, making it economically feasible. And so we're there, and it's worked out. It's a feather in our cap to be there. We love being there. They're great people to deal with. It's a small store. It's a very modest situation, but it adds, to our portfolio, to our brand. It's profitable, and we're serving a purpose for the customers. And they still shop. Some of those people who live there still shop our store on State Street because it's a limited, variety store. It is more of a convenience.
And someone wants to take the walk too. And because they're in the building, they have the brand loyalty. So it's probably fun. They're going to go to the second location.
Right. But some people in the building, is interesting, when we were doing the build out for that store, I was in an elevator with two potential customers. And one customer was saying, wow, we're really going to enjoy having when the new store opens. And I said, we're going to have everything you want. You don't have to go anywhere else. And then the other customer says, unless we want to. And I thought, whoa, okay. Yes, I agree. You'll have choices, So, they didn't want to be like the other customer. Don't want to feel like, I don't want to feel compelled to shop this store. I still have choices. I'm good with that. It was kind of eye-opening, but I got a kick out of it. It was like, yeah, you have choices. But we want whatever segment of your business we can get. We're here for you. When you're ready, we're ready, and that's how we maintain our position.
Where do you see the future of groceries?
It's always going to be changing. When I got out of school, I worked for Kroger and out of state to learn business. Wasn't sure because I had a college degree, and in those days, there weren't a lot of people with college degrees going into the grocery business.
I'm sure.
They're working their way up and that kind of thing. So I got a job with Kroger. I wasn't sure whether I was going to go the corporate route because I had a college degree or whether I wanted the family business. My nephew kind of had the same fork in the road at some point in his career because he's college trained too. And I worked for Kroger, and the one thing they pounded in as that in college and at Kroger, changes. But I said, okay, change, but I really never anticipated. It's one thing to acknowledge the concept that change is going to be dramatic over time, but to know what actually that means in a realistic, practical way, it's hard to envision. But I think, some of the things that are already happening are going to, I think COVID accelerated a lot of trends in shopping, from home. that they thought were in the next 10 years happened in 2 years. And I think people are going to continue to have more and more options. I think there'll always be a place for retail. Customers are going to want to shop, and mainly for perishables and things they
I
want.
want to touch my fruit.
Exactly.
I could never. I like to go to the grocery store, as I was saying earlier. I've never ordered anything except maybe like some one-off things when the baby was born.
Yeah.
But the idea of having someone else pick out all your stuff takes the fun away from the groceries in a sense.
It does. Until necessity kicks in.
Yeah.
And when you need something, you take what you get. I mean, that's been my experience with Instacart. You take what you get, but the convenience is there, and that's their niche too. But I think that those trends will still continue. Things are going to get, artificial intelligence is going to be a bigger and bigger part of our lives. And the good side of artificial intelligence, because there's a dark side to be wary of. But Elon Musk has even talked about that kind of thing. But more and more, artificial intelligence is streamlining the things that take a lot of the labor out of a lot of the emotion out of decision making in a good way.
All the analysis gone. 1 second. Right. This is what you need to do.
Right. And we're looking at some of that as well for ordering, and take the emotion out of some things we're doing, old habits, things like that. We're looking at artificial intelligence for labor scheduling and ordering of products. We're just looking at it, and I think it's gonna become a bigger part of it. And we'll see. A lot of trends they talked about with fax machines or certain things that paper, electronic, email, that paper would go away, and the use of paper has increased. Even so a lot of things that they talk about, things are going to disappear, won't disappear. Now, toll booth people, they've disappeared. So some things do and some things don't. In the grocery business, I see, there'll be less people involved in grocery business, but it'll be quality and people making more money, and it'll continue. People still want to shop for groceries. There'll always be certain people who want to shop for groceries because it's a personal experience, and there'll be that segment that wants, I don't care, I want this. But some of the perishable things, shop for wine, craft beers, spirits. You kind of want to go. You want to talk about it. You want to maybe sample it. You want to.
That's a great point. You guys have a great wine person.
We do.
I only know about your Sandburg location. The guy's great. If you need a bottle of wine, that is the best place to go for every person listening to this.
Yes.
You need a bottle of wine, go there. He will give you exactly the right thing for whatever you're cooking, whatever your event is.
Yes. And that's something that's part of our niche as well.
Yeah, that's a big space. It's so funny. So I used to live right over there. So I used to go there more often. I don't go there as often anymore. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's the geographics, like
Things
we were talking
change.
about.
We understand.
But I would always go there when I was getting a bottle of wine for a client or whatever it was. Like, here's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah. And we've been blessed with good wine people over the years. Years ago, we had a gentleman named 𝗙𝗥𝗢𝗣𝗥𝗧𝗬. He was German, and he lived and breathed wines, and he was good at it. And he could smell a wine and tell you what kind of wine it was. And when he was buying wines, I watched him when I was a kid. He would smell a wine first, and sometimes it didn't pass the smell test, and they went no further. And he really knew. He got us started in the wine business, the fine wine business. And since then, we've had several people come through. We have one guy that actually the store manager at John Reed at the grocery store. He's our head wine guy now. Passionate about wines, spirits, craft beers. Loves to talk about it. Loves to taste it. And is good at what he does. He knows how to match up people. He wasn't there probably when you were shopping there, but he loves to match up people with their preferences. And there's an art to that. There's something to that. And we try to do that for our customers. It's part of the fun of the business.
Art, thanks so much for doing this. This is a lot of fun.
It's been a pleasure.
It was a pleasure to learn about your business and all these little things. You never know they're going to come up, but I've been sitting here. I'm like, this and that.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you
It's
so
been a pleasure.
much.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
If you want to watch another My Chicago podcast, click here. If you want to see exceptional Chicago properties, click here. Thanks for watching.